For startups hiring engineers and engineers looking to join them, this podcast is for you.
Hey, welcome to Your Next Tech Startup. Today, I'm speaking with Sid, a director of engineering at a Series D startup. He's previously also been an engineering manager at Amazon. And we're going to be talking about how AI is impacting how he and his team work. He's going to share about changes in regards to how his team works on a day-to-day basis, how much they are not using AI, expectations of the team because of that. And along with that, talking about kind of how interviewing processes and thinking about candidates is changing as AI is becoming a bigger player in all aspects of interviewing, hiring, being part of engineering teams. So, Sid, please give a quick intro.
Hey, Isabel, thank you for having me. Very excited to be here with you, having this conversation, which is kind of seismic shift to our life. But before I start, I basically started my career as a developer. I have like 18 plus years of experience in the industry now. Slowly grew up the ranks. At some point in time, I liked the side of mentorship and coaching a lot more, and the people management aspect of the leadership a lot more. And that's how I made this shift to become into more managerial leadership roles. Currently, I work at Medible as a director of engineering, like you said. And yeah, I really like my job, especially with everything that's happening right now. I mean, we're going through so much information and so much transformation at such a fast pace. It's unlike anything that I have experienced. Like, I remember there was this whole era when the cloud technologies kind of started emerging, and how we deploy and how we use products kind of started shifting. Because when I really started my career, my first application that I worked on was a desktop application, even though it was an enterprise, supposed to be an enterprise application. Like, we would code on desktop. And from that to what we are at today, and then with AI, I'm seeing like now it feels like that transformation was nothing. Like, whole SaaS world that came about still feels very slow compared to what we are seeing today. And now I can see that anybody with good depth of knowledge and good skill set can actually do wonders at a level of productivity that they could have never done in the past or thought in the past, right? So I don't think AI could replace the knowledge part that easily, but it can definitely, like, it's the plow and not the farmer, right? And
Yeah.
then it is really, really effective in kind of multiplying. You've heard all these corny terms right now. I don't believe in a lot of this buzzword, but this 10x engineering kind of concept that is kind of emerging is basically coming from that fact that, hey, now people can do a lot more with their time.
Yeah. Well, and we originally connected talking about, you coming on the podcast, I think 2 or 3 months ago. And one of the things that, I was asking you about when we first connected was, how much is your team and hiring goals being impacted by AI? Because there was a lot of talk around like, okay, well, now a team of 5 engineers can potentially accomplish what 15 engineers can accomplish. So therefore, you don't get any more engineers on your team this year, was something that was kind of a lot of talk about that. And I feel like just in these last couple of months, that talk is, to me, it feels like it's quieting, and it is more, we actually still need software engineers to do the work, is more the energy with that is utilizing, like you were saying, like the farmer and the plow, like utilizing AI to be more effective. So that original question that I had, I think let's still kind of address it, is that you know, are you still growing your team pre-AI, but there's also like pre-tech layoffs and all these other things, but are you seeing AI impact how much headcount you get?
It still affects. I mean, I can see results that I will still say that AI has changed that shift. There has been a shift in terms of how we looked at hiring and how we looked at resource utilization in the past. That has not gone even since our last conversation. So I think that's pretty steady. And now we've seen results that allow us to believe that, okay, we can probably, okay, we are still learning and we're course correcting as we go. But at the same time, it has not been completely false narrative also. I have seen now people who are able to pick up different skill sets, like good engineers in my team that have been with me for like really long time are now able to do a lot more and different like cross platform skill sets work
Okay.
that they were not able to do in the past. Because if they have deep knowledge of technology architecture and if they have deep understanding of how our products work, like these are the two very big defining criteria, right? So they have the most context on our customers usage and behavior, and then they have the most context. I think they are the most effective in terms of now they can use AI to multiply their work much faster and learn new skill sets much faster, upskill themselves to do something that we did not imagine doing. Also, they are able to now automate workflows that would be manual in the past. So it's not replacement of the engineer, but because now that's say if they freed up 20% of their time because of some automation, now they automatically have more capacity to do more work. So has hiring really changed? Actually, it hasn't changed much seriously since we last talked, because it's not like now we have completely gone back on that thinking and now we're hiring
Yeah.
again a lot. No, we're not. We're hiring where it's important. So again, right? So people who are deep thinkers, people who have adapted, like people who have enabled themselves to be AI native thinkers in terms of solutioning versus people who are just solving problems. I think there is this difference. So I'm seeing some
Okay.
people are really good at it. So they're adapting to the AI and they're discovering new things and they're spending time and finding how their job can become easier. And I
Okay.
see like those kind of people are the best people right now in the
Yeah.
team because they're multiplying.
And there's two things that I want to just clarify on that you had touched on. So one is like you were saying that engineers able to do more. When I heard that, I thought, okay, are you talking about someone who's spent most of their career as a back-end engineer, like very solid back-end engineer, that now they are taking on a lot of work that maybe you would have had a DevOps person do, or maybe you would have had a front-end person do. And like they're kind of that they're truly a full stack engineer in a way that they wouldn't have been able to be 3 years ago.
That's what I'm seeing right now. I
Okay.
have people actually in my team right now who are able to die. This is exactly the same example. I have people in the back end who are now looking at front end apps and issues and troubleshooting. They might not be as effective as the best front end engineer I would have, but they are now transitioning to that. In just like last 2 months, I'm seeing that transition started and coming to a point where they're able to resolve bugs independently, right? That transition is also pretty new. Nobody would
Okay.
have thought about it. I have native developers who have never done anything other than iOS development or Android development in the past are now looking at other web technologies and front end technologies and able to, because some of the core principles don't change, although
Right.
there are niche expertise within that. Just focusing on those core principles, they are able to leverage AI if they understand the app well, right? So there's only the functionality difference between the web app and the iOS app of the same, say, two front end usages of the same back end, then they are able to very easily transition into the.
Okay. And then the other thing that I heard you say, which I feel like I wasn't hearing hiring managers say a decade ago, was how important it is that they understand the business. I think it used to be very much a nice to have or an ideal, but I am getting the sense in the last couple of years that the business depth that I would see in product manager hiring, I'm seeing transfer some to software engineering hiring, and that, you have fintech experience, great, because you've solved these problems in fintech, good, because we have these similar problems in fintech. Whereas before, software engineers, it was more like, oh, you're Java. Okay, so then these are all the Java jobs you can do. But now it's like these are and then it became B2C to B2B jobs you could do or SaaS jobs. But now I feel like it's getting even more critical that they really take on that understanding the business problems.
Yeah. So just let me do one differentiation. I think you're right, but only difference here is there is more value of people who are system thinkers, right?
Okay.
There is more value of outcomes over outputs. So when you think of a person that can deliver an outcome, so they don't need to be an expert of the domain. But if
Okay.
they look at a system and they say like this doesn't make sense and I can automate this, something very simple, right? And I've seen some really good examples of that within my current job in Medible, and I have seen some examples of that even in the past. My own career, I don't think I've ever stuck to a domain, right? I've done everything. I've done e-commerce, and then I've done, like, this is clinical trials, like life sciences space. And before that, I've done fintech. And before that, I was in like learning management space. So if you
Mhm.
really see the graph, I don't think initially my transitions were only based on technology. You're right. And now they're more based on my other soft skills of like, hey, can I influence? Can I drive? Can I deliver? Right. And I think that same thing now is expected out of the engineers also, which was an
Okay.
expectation for leadership in the past. That's why I'm kind of
Ah,
pointing it as outcome over output, because
okay.
outcome is what people are looking at now. Like, I'll tell you one very nice example that I saw very recently, where an engineer came up with a product idea which was based off of AI that
Okay.
drastically improved how we built our product, and we actually productionized it. Now it's live and it's in customers' hands. This kind of transition I had never seen in the past, where
Huh.
people like from engineering coming up with like really bold ideas and productionizing it and putting out in the customer's hand within like a very short span of time. We used to go through all these layers of product managers and market surveys and research.
Uh-huh.
And with AI, I think the adaptability and speed is really important. So people are trying things quickly and see what works. So you might have heard about iterative development. Now I
Mhm.
see it at like 10x scale, where everybody's iterating development at a very high speed to see what
Mhm.
clicks and what does not,
Yeah.
which is new, which is much faster than, for at least enterprise world, it is very new. In enterprise world, people don't like to shake things too much. They
Right.
like to have very predictable, because their enterprise customers don't like too much changes also. So
Hmm.
that has been shifting a little bit in the recent time.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because that quick like MVPs and all of that, like for early stage startup is, which is what I'm used to, is so common. But what you're saying is like is you're seeing that at for enterprise level as well. Okay. And then, in regards to hiring, so I think we're kind of touching on it some when you're thinking about hiring people now versus 5 years ago or 3 years ago, what are some of the things that have shifted in how you think about hiring?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. So, like I was mentioning this, right? And I think you touched upon this. So, in the past, if hiring was only very reasoning driven, like, hey, can you just put some logic together,
Hmm.
right? Can you really build a strong algorithm to solve a problem? For me to hire engineers, I think that was the most important criteria, because if they cannot think in terms of logic and code and then can write code at the same time, then they're not the best fit for the team, because they would take a lot more to adapt, adjust, learn. I mean, for startup world, I don't think that's an option. So that was kind of the expectation 5 years ago. And then we
Hmm.
would do the system design interviews where some predictability or some method to it, like, can you design an architecture that's scalable? Can you explain your design choices? Why did you choose X versus Y? All of that core principle still applies. But I think how much AI based thinking you can induce to that process. Like when
Mm.
now somebody coding, I don't expect somebody to code. I want to see, can they code with AI technology
Okay.
faster, better, how good their prompt engineering skills are, right? Because of course nothing works with AI. It's like the intern that has all the knowledge and just want to spurt out, who never says no.
So how they're utilizing AI in the process of solving the problem makes me think that would be impossible to do in a take-home challenge, right?
They can do it on a take-home challenge, and then
Okay.
if they can explain it to me, like, hey, this is how I
Okay.
did it. These are the challenges I faced. And some tools like Cursor and all are so good now. You can see the history. Like,
Okay.
okay, go solve it on an AI tool. I don't care if you write the code yourself, right? As far
Okay.
as you understand, you're able to explain it to me what you did. And I can see the process of how you arrived at those outcomes, right?
Okay.
That is something now I'm more interested in seeing. That tells me how refined their skills are, how quickly they're adapting, are they making right choices. So the core principles are still same, but I want to see if
Yeah.
they can use AI tools versus them depending on themselves 100% to do it, which would probably be very slow. So I think that's kind of the systemic shift.
Okay. So are you potentially asking the solve this problem type question, and then the expectation is they're able to get further faster?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Further
so you can
faster, and they can show the process of how they go. Like their prompt engineering skills, for an example, is very critical in this kind of context, because
Okay.
in prompt you have to be very careful of what you say, what you expect, what you want the systems to do, what you don't want the systems to do. I think those become more vital in this
Yeah.
context now. Yeah.
Okay. So the question is more or less the same,
Mhm.
but the evaluation is very different.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I have seen, and that's what I see most people around me when I talk to them are doing. Nobody has drastically changed their approach to recruiting. Only thing they're saying is, can you think in terms of AI when you design something? Can you infuse the flavor of AI into something? Or I've also heard some people what they're doing is they're throwing the current technical process that they follow, and then they ask the candidate to go solve it with some AI. Like, how would you make it faster, better, or automate it, so that there's no human touch involved, at least in like 2 steps of that 10-step process? How would you do it? And then now this candidate has to kind of think in terms of AI tools, technologies, and how he'll go automate that.
Yeah. I do think there's still, I have no idea what the percentage is, but I think that there's still some amount of technical interviews happening that they don't want candidates using AI. They still want to confirm that they are able to, I don't know, I guess it's write the code and like figure it out on their
Yeah.
own. But it sounds like for you to make the right hire on your team, that wouldn't make sense because you need an engineer who knows how to use AI on the team to be
Yeah.
effective.
So I'm not discounting the core skill set. I just want to make it very clear. The
Yeah.
reason I'm saying that they should be able to explain that solution, and they should be able to know why this is the right solution. It means they need to know the fundamentals. They need to
Yeah.
know their algorithm. They need to know their data structures, right? AI is doing the job of typing it for them. It doesn't take away their reasoning or their review skills. Like review engineering is really critical here. Like, can they review a piece of code that's generated by and say, hey, this works, this doesn't work, right? Or I see this potential risk here because I know this won't be extensible solution. Tomorrow we want to add 2 more hooks to this process. That would be a whole rewrite. I want to make my architecture extendable, and that kind of stuff a seasoned engineer can do, right? That skill I'm still expecting people to have. It's just that, can they have AI augment that process for them to speed it up, not really replace their core thinking, or
Right.
just take because AI generated it, assuming this is the right answer. They shouldn't
Yeah.
be doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that some people don't want AI, the use of AI to have any part of the interview process.
I see. Yeah.
And, but I think that they're also maybe not incorporating AI as much in how the teams function. I don't know.
It might be the case. I'm seeing like, so right now I'm not even differentiating good and bad engineers. I'll tell you, I have some really good engineers. Some of them are really like they get go with AI. They started experimenting. Whether it works, it did not work. They are playing with it and they're trying to see how they can make it work for their, or where they can make it work. And if it has limitations, okay, I'll leave that area aside, but at least where I can leverage it, I'll go ahead and leverage it. Right. So there are those kind of people. And there are some people who are extremely good developers, but they have absolute hesitance to adoption, right? And that can be
Yeah.
coming from the fear of replacement. I mean, there is a lot of noise out there in the market and all the social media. So I understand. But if they're not adapting to it, and if my organization's goal is to operate lean, right,
Yeah.
then it is counterintuitive
So,
for me. Yeah.
and you touched on it a little bit, this whole, you remember when it was on-prem versus cloud.
Mhm.
My guess is the engineer who's not willing to work with AI is going to become like the on-prem engineer. And then there's a lot of, right now, like most hiring that I have done over the last decade is like, you need to be working with AWS, GCP, Azure, like, and if you're not, and as the recruiter, I can screen you out. If you're not working on those things, you're not getting past the recruiter. And potentially those really strong engineers right now are I don't know, in the next couple of years, they're going to have a really hard time getting a job, I think.
Yeah, I see that totally, because it doesn't help their cause. And technology industry has always been like that, right?
Yeah.
In a way, it's a great place. It's been a very thriving model. I think we all better off because of it. At the same time, it has been very ruthless for people who don't adapt and change. Like the
Yeah.
Darwin principle applies
Very
very well,
ruthless.
right here. It always applies. Every few year it applies. And with AI, I think that's speeding up already. So there will always be jobs for, like, there are still companies that do on-prem, right? But they'll be very limited in
Yeah.
terms of scope, in terms of growth, right? In terms of opportunities and exposure, and people who kind of got onto that whole cloud and CI/CD train
Right.
in the past, you see their careers have transformed to a very different degree, right? And I think that's exactly what I see with AI also. Although everybody is now trying and playing an error, it's not going to go away. I mean, it is definitely going to be there. It's not perfect. Everybody knows that now. There was a time when people believed this is going to replace everything. We all know it's not perfect, but it does help to a greater degree. And that's what we should focus on leveraging. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing how things are changing on your team, how interviewing processes are changing. Sadly, there are a lot of engineers who haven't had work for the last 12 months. And so they're looking for work, but they're not getting to see the changes that you're talking about live in their day-to-day. And so the opportunity to kind of hear that, understand that, will hopefully help them become better candidates and potentially other hiring managers who maybe are, I don't want to say on-prem hiring managers, but that are not adapting and including AI on their teams and how they interview, hear from your insights and your experience and rethink things.
Yeah, I hope it helps. And the people you mentioned who have not had this opportunity, either in their jobs or because they don't have access to a full-time employment right now. Like, there are so many hackathons happening right now. I think that is really, really the best way to kind of upskill. Go try your hands in a no judgment environment, right? Because nobody knows you there. You can go, and most people form teams sporadically. I've judged and mentored few hackathons in last 1 year or two, and I've really seen people first-hand learning skills, trying, working as a team. And these teams are mostly people who never knew each other before they came to that hackathon. And form groups, and they can learn these skills. They can play hands-on, build some utilities or tools. It can also help them build a good GitHub kind of portfolio, right? And at least that will give them a foot in the door in the
Yeah.
conversations versus having absolutely standing on the side and saying, I don't have opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I am constantly advocating stop applying to so many jobs and start networking.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And hackathons are, I think, a great networking opportunity. This has been such a great conversation. I really
Absolutely.
enjoyed getting to know you and hearing kind of your thoughts on things. And I think the hackathon isn't something that I don't think I've talked about with anyone in an episode yet. And I didn't fully understand how much it is a early career kind of gravitational pool, and that it'd be great if that changes, because I think right now it does need to shift, and all engineers need to be kind of pushing themselves with
Yeah, and
and learning AI.
the reason think hackathons are great because it allows you to build a team and then cross pollinate, right? I don't think one person can do everything. I know there are stories where one person built a company with AI and then sold it for $60 million. But those are like far and few. Like, those are exceptions, right? That's not for everybody. And it's not easy for everybody. And there is some luck, I think, also plays in those kind of stories. But I do think that when you have a team and 4 or 5 people working together, cross pollinating knowledge and collaborating, that usually brings happiness, excitement, purpose to your work. And now you're working towards a common goal. So it helps everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you've been out of work for 12 months, you need that. Like, you
Yeah.
need like that kind of trigger for your brain. I know, I took off time a lot of 2024. I had a baby in 2023. It was a shit time to be a technical recruiter in 2024. So, I didn't work a lot. And like, my brain got out of flow with recruiting, and it was nice to start having conversations in the space again, so that I was becoming stronger. And I think that with interviewing, so the opportunity to do the hackathons kind of get your engineering brain fully on, which, yes, you can be doing in your house, coding on your own, but it is that collaborative learning, working together, problem solving, and that sadly a lot of people are missing out on right now. And so hackathons could be a really great way for them to do that.
Absolutely. I do believe it.
And so incredibly happy that we had this conversation.
Likewise.
I think everyone who listens will really benefit, and maybe you'll start posting hackathons on your LinkedIn that people can follow.
I think like I should start doing that. Now that you're telling me, I'm feeling like maybe I should start doing it so that it's easier for people to find these things. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe I'll learn about how to find all the hackathons from you, and then I can start posting them too. Or I'll just repost your post. Okay.
All of that works. Whatever.
All right. Okay. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.